They threw thorns in your path thinking they'd watch you bleed. What they didn't realize was fate has a memory sharper than any blade. In the grand design of cosmic balance, every act, every intention, every whisper behind your back returns, sometimes quiet, sometimes brutal, but always exact. Life doesn't forget. And while they plotted to see you crawl, they were digging their own decline. Because no one escapes the balance, not even those who wear fake smiles while hiding venom in their hands. Critics, enemies, doubters, they study you like a game, but they underestimate the rules. See, when you're chosen, the universe doesn't just defend you, it aligns in silence, recalibrating every sabotage into strategy, every setup into spotlight. They wanted to see you crushed under pressure, but pressure doesn't break the chosen, it polishes them. You are not prey, you are proof. Proof that attempts to destroy what was destined only accelerate its rise. Their manipulation, a failed illusion, their betrayal, the echo of their own downfall. And here's the irony. They wanted to expose your flaws, but only exposed their obsession. The very power they tried to crush now walks ahead of them like a shadow they can't outrun. Your growth haunts them, your silence disturbs them. Your glow, refined by chaos, now becomes the fire that burns through every mask they wear. If you feel this in your gut, like it was written for you, then you know. Like and subscribe, not just for the content, but for the alignment. This isn't a video, it's confirmation. You are chosen, and your rise isn't coming, it's already begun. Before we go any further, understand this. What you're about to hear isn't just a message, it's a mirror. A reflection of what you knew was real, but couldn't prove. This isn't motivation, it's memory. The moment you remember exactly why everything had to happen the way it did. So take 2 seconds that could shift everything. Like this video to charge the frequency, subscribe so more chosen ones can break the illusion, and drop the number 99 in the comments if your silence ever exposed someone's true face. If you've ever felt that chill before the betrayal hit, this was made for you. Stay locked in, because once this truth clicks, you won't ever look at your past the same way again. Let's get into it. Number 1. Never fear the cage. It was built to break, not hold you. They didn't just want to see you hurt. They wanted to make a spectacle out of your collapse. This wasn't random drama. This was engineered exposure, a quiet execution carried out with smiles and staged concern. What you went through wasn't miscommunication. It was manipulation layered so precisely, so carefully, it almost made you doubt your own reality. But you didn't break. You saw through the cracks. You recognized the shift in their energy, the sudden coldness masked by fake warmth, the jokes that cut too deep but were always just playing. That wasn't coincidence. That was psychological warfare disguised as friendship. And you survived it not because you were lucky, but because you were aware. You noticed how your empathy was twisted into a leash, how your silence was used to label you as weak, how your patience was mistaken for submission. But what they couldn't measure was the depth of your discernment, that radar inside you, the one that catches energy before it ever speaks. That's what saved your life. Because being chosen doesn't mean everyone will love you. It means your existence will disturb those still living behind masks. And when your presence becomes a mirror, people don't reflect, they retaliate. Let's make something clear. They didn't just want to hurt your feelings, they wanted to humiliate your soul. And humiliation isn't an accident, it's a ritual. It takes rehearsal. They watched you like a script, learned your rhythms, waited for the moment you'd be most vulnerable. Then came the twist. They set the trap and invited the audience. A stage was built for your downfall, but instead of bleeding on cue, you paused. You looked around. You noticed. That pause, that's what ruined everything they rehearsed. Because when a chosen one goes quiet, it's not retreat, it's recalibration. You weren't confused, you were calculating, you weren't broken, you were observing. And in that silence, everything they built began to collapse. So if you're still wondering why it all happened like that, why people who knew your heart suddenly turned cold, why you were the only one confused while they moved in eerie sync, it's because this was never just about you. It was about extinguishing what you represented. You didn't just survive an attack, you interrupted a ritual. And if this is hitting somewhere deep, good. That means the fog is lifting. That means the truth is surfacing. So take a second, lock in with this moment, like this video to amplify it, subscribe to Pass the Signal, and drop the number 99 in the comments if you've ever sat in a room full of people who smiled while hoping you'd break. Number 2. Stop letting empathy be a noose. Guard your gift. They saw your empathy as an open door, a weakness they could manipulate, twist, and weaponize. You gave them understanding, they gave you betrayal. You gave them silence, they interpreted it as submission. You gave them time, they used it to sharpen their knives. But here's what they never calculated. Your empathy wasn't naivety, it was power. And now, chosen one, it's time to guard that gift like a weapon. Because not everyone deserves access to your heart, your energy, or your presence. They pretended to need you just to drain you. They rehearsed vulnerability like a performance, knowing you'd show up with love and loyalty. And every time you excused their behavior, they marked it as permission to push further. But what they didn't know is that your spirit doesn't stay blind for long. The moment your discernment activates, the game flips. And this time, you're no longer giving out free access passes to people who wouldn't lift a finger if the roles were reversed. You weren't weak for feeling deeply. You were being tested to see if you'd finally choose yourself. Empathy without boundaries becomes self-betrayal. You were bleeding trying to heal people who cut you. You were explaining your worth to people committed to misunderstanding it. And now, that ends. From here on out, your love is sacred and your energy is earned. Guard your gift, because when you're chosen, your light attracts both the broken and the deceptive. And some aren't coming to be healed, they're coming to consume. You'll recognize them by the way your peace starts to disappear when they arrive, by the confusion they bring, by how often you feel drained after the conversation. That's not love, that's leeching, and your spirit knows the difference. You're not here to save everyone. You're here to protect what was given to you for a purpose far greater than people-pleasing. You're not obligated to explain your distance. You're not cruel for cutting ties. You're not heartless for protecting the one thing that kept you alive when they tried to break you, your inner knowing. So from now on, empathy isn't a trap. It's a gift with locked doors. And only those who come with truth, respect, and real energy get to enter. This is how you win, chosen one, not by shrinking your heart, but by securing it. Number 3. Don't perform in their play. Exit before they hang you. They built the scene like a theater. Roles assigned, audience ready, and you cast as the fool. But what they didn't count on was this: you refusing to perform. Chosen one, this wasn't just drama. It was a pre-written downfall, a humiliation ritual masked as conflict. They baited you to react. They needed a meltdown, a scream, a breakdown on display to justify the story they had already started telling behind your back, that you were unstable, that you were the problem, that you finally showed your true colors, but you gave them nothing, no explosion, no chaos, just silence, and that silence shattered the entire production. They studied you like a director watches an actor before the opening night. Every insecurity, every past mistake, every soft spot you once showed them in trust, weaponized. They didn't just want to hurt you privately. They wanted witnesses. They wanted you to fall where others could see it, mock it, and share it. Because public shame is the most efficient tool for cowards with no real power. But here's what they never anticipated: your awareness, your refusal to play your part. They crafted the moment like a noose, hoping your reaction would be the knot. But the rope snapped mid-air, and instead of a scene, they were left with exposure. Because what's more dangerous than a chosen one lashing out? A chosen one who walks away. You didn't exit because you were weak. You exited because you saw the trap. You saw the lighting. You felt the shift in energy. You heard the cues, and in that moment, you rewrote the ending. Chosen one. Your discernment turned their production into a failure. They didn't just lose control of the narrative. They lost access to your energy. And now, every fake laugh they rehearsed, every comment they scripted behind your back, every plan they set in motion, it all falls flat without your participation. They needed your pain to finish their story, but your silence became your resistance. Your clarity was the twist no one saw coming. And that's what truly burns them. Not just that you didn't break, but that you refused to play the part they wrote for you. Number 4. Nostalgia is a Trojan horse. Slam the door. Chosen one, let's kill the illusion right now. They didn't come back because they missed you. They came back to see if the door was still open. That message? That, hey, I was just thinking about you. That wasn't fate. That was bait, disguised as nostalgia, wrapped in old memories, delivered with a familiar tone that once comforted you, but now reeks of strategy. And deep down, you felt it, that drop in your stomach, that tension in your chest. That wasn't emotion, it was warning. See, when you're chosen, you don't just evolve. You outgrow illusions. And one of the deadliest illusions is the idea that people from your past somehow changed just because they came back with softer words. Let's be honest, they didn't change. They adapted. Last time they came loud. This time they came calculated. They remembered what worked, and now they're repackaging it. They wore your memories like a costume, hoping you'd still fall for the version of them that no longer exists. But you're not that version of you anymore either. You're sharper now, colder when needed, unreachable where you used to be wide open. That's the price of being chosen. Once your light activates, it attracts attention. Not all of it good. They're not drawn to you. They're drawn to the glow they lost when you cut them off. And instead of doing the work to grow on their own, they'd rather tap back into your energy and drink from what they once poisoned. And some of you, you're tempted, not because you believe them, but because a piece of you still wants closure. Let me break that fantasy. Closure is not a conversation, it's a decision. You don't need to revisit hell just to prove you survived it. If your body tenses up when their name pops up, that's not anxiety, it's clarity. Nostalgia is a weapon when it's wielded by the wrong hands. It makes you forget the pain and remember the comfort. But don't forget, comfort was the disguise they used last time too. This time, slam the door. Don't knock, don't peek, don't answer. The version of you they're looking for doesn't live here anymore. And the moment you truly understand that, they lose access for good. Number 5. That chill wasn't awkwardness, it was a predator's breath. Let's cut the illusion. That weird shift in the room, that sudden tightness in your chest, that subtle glance you caught when they thought you weren't looking, that wasn't social awkwardness. That was intent. You felt it. Not with logic, but with your inner radar, and still you brushed it off. You told yourself you were overthinking, too sensitive, paranoid even. But that feeling wasn't a glitch, it was the system alerting you. That wasn't a misunderstanding, that was a predator calculating your next move. They didn't come at you with fists, they came with charm, with familiarity, with carefully rehearsed concern, and you, the chosen one, were supposed to lower your guard because the threat didn't look like danger, it looked like a smile. That's how they operate now, not loud, not obvious, but quiet, strategic, suffocating. Their game isn't confrontation, it's infiltration. You walked into rooms where the vibe was off and still stayed because you didn't want to be rude. You ignored your own inner screaming just to keep things cool. But energy doesn't lie, and your body remembers what your mind tries to excuse. The shiver wasn't cold air, it was a warning. The pause in their voice wasn't hesitation, it was calculation. The vibe that felt just a little off, that was truth whispering before the mask could fully slip. The chosen are never attacked head-on. It's always through subtle cues. They test your boundaries like picking locks, slow, soft, persistent. But here's the shift. You're not unlocked anymore. You've seen the blueprint. You've survived the setup. Your intuition isn't just a feeling anymore. It's a weapon. That radar that once made you question yourself now exposes every fake face in the room before they even speak. So no, you weren't being dramatic. You weren't overreacting. You sensed the trap before it triggered, and you backed out before the damage landed. That's not fear, that's foresight. And that chill in your spine, that was power. That was discernment in motion. From this point forward, trust that signal. Don't decode it. Exit. Because the next time you feel it, it won't be awkwardness. It'll be survival sharpening its edge again. Number 6. Don't dim to fit in. Your light was the mirror they feared. They didn't reject you because you were wrong. They rejected you because your light revealed everything they were trying to hide. Let's get that straight from the start. You didn't change. They just couldn't wear their mask around you anymore. Your energy exposed what they worked so hard to bury. You didn't call them out. They saw themselves in your reflection, and it burned. That's why the smiles shifted. That's why the conversations got colder. That's why the room started to feel like a cage. You didn't dim your light. They just couldn't survive under it. Chosen one, your very existence was the problem for them. Not your tone, not your silence, not your confidence. The problem was that you carried something real in a world built on performance. And real will always threaten fake. You moved with clarity in a crowd addicted to confusion. You healed in silence while they performed their pain for sympathy. You refused to beg, and they called it arrogance. You didn't fold, and they called it ego. That's what happens when the broken try to label the ones who refuse to stay shattered. But let me be clear, you were never meant to fit in. You weren't designed to blend into backgrounds that dim brilliance. You were meant to unsettle the room. You were meant to shift energy just by entering. They didn't hate you. They hated what you awakened in them. You were the blueprint, and your rise reminded them that their stagnation was a choice. They wanted the old version of you, the one that questioned their red flags, the one that stayed loyal to patterns that were killing your spirit. But that version of you died in the fire they lit. And what rose from those ashes? That's what keeps them up at night. That's what their silence is really about. Regret disguised as distance, jealousy dressed as detachment. So no, don't shrink, don't adjust. Don't ever lower your frequency just to make someone else feel secure in their dysfunction. You're not too much. They're just not enough for where you're going. Your presence is a reminder of what they could be, but chose not to become. They feared your light. Good. Let it blind them. Number 7. That reunion was a ritual, not a reconnection. They didn't come back because they missed you. That, hey, I was just thinking about you, wasn't affection. It was strategy. That wasn't a reconnection. That was a ritual disguised as a reunion, and you were the target all over again. They weren't looking for peace. They were scouting your progress, testing your boundaries, hoping the version of you they once broke was still alive, still reachable, still soft enough to let them back in. But what they didn't expect was the new version of you, the one forged in silence, sharpened by betrayal and guarded by discernment. You see, the ritual always begins the same way. Familiar voice, familiar face, familiar setting. And just like before, they come draped in nostalgia, hoping memory can override intuition. But this time, something in you wouldn't settle. That calm on the outside was masking the static in your gut. You felt it. You knew. The smiles were too perfect. The timing was too precise. Their tone too rehearsed. Because it was rehearsed. They didn't return to rebuild anything. They came to record your collapse, hoping your new piece was just a performance waiting to unravel. But you didn't fall for it. Because the chosen evolve in ways the enemy can't calculate. You didn't meet them as the person they remembered. You met them as the version of you they created, the one who no longer confuses presence with loyalty, who no longer trades intuition for politeness. You saw the bait wrapped in "let's catch up," and you declined the invitation to your own spiritual ambush. And here's the part they'll never understand. The moment you sensed that energy mismatch, you became untouchable. Your discernment didn't just protect your peace, it shattered their script. They wanted a relapse. You gave them resistance. They wanted access. You handed them silence. That wasn't cold, that was clarity. So don't mourn the reconnection that never happened. Celebrate the trap you didn't walk into. Because every time they return and fail, it confirms your growth. It reminds them that you no longer exist at the level where they once hurt you. Chosen one, that wasn't a moment of reconnection. That was your final confirmation. Their energy was expired, and your evolution made sure the door stayed shut, for good. Number 8. Stop apologizing for being fireproof. You were forged, not burned. They wanted the fire to consume you. They thought if they turned up the heat high enough, you'd melt, break down, fold, beg, vanish. But instead, you evolved in the flames. They watched you walk through a storm they designed to destroy you, and they couldn't understand how you came out without smoke on your skin. That's the thing about being chosen. You weren't burned, you were forged, and now your strength isn't just visible, it's untouchable. But here's what you need to stop doing immediately. Stop apologizing for surviving. Stop shrinking because your glow unsettles people who once fed off your silence. Stop acting like you're too much, too intense, too aware. They didn't survive what you did. They didn't feel their soul get ripped open and still choose not to become bitter. You did. You felt the flames lick your feet, and still, you walked. They collapsed in the heat they created. You stood in it and transformed. Let's be real. Your fireproof nature isn't arrogance, it's aftermath. You earned this edge, this discernment, this quiet strength that doesn't need approval. The guilt they want you to carry, that's projection. They hate that their attack became your awakening. They thought the fire would break you down, but it broke your limits instead. And that terrifies them. So when they whisper, "You've changed," understand what they're really saying. You stopped being someone we could control. They missed the version of you that explained everything, that second-guessed yourself, that kept showing up to places your soul had outgrown. But that version of you didn't survive the ritual. That version burned so the real you could emerge. From now on, walk like you've walked through fire, because you have. And that glow they keep mistaking for ego, that's resilience, that's clarity, that's power. They'll keep trying to twist the narrative. They'll say you're distant, cold, unforgiving. But the truth is, you just stopped giving access to people who only came close to dim your shine. So remember this, chosen one. You weren't saved to be soft. You were refined to be sharp. You were born to bend reality, not explain yourself to those still stuck in theirs. Let them talk, let them doubt, let them stare. You've walked through what they couldn't even name and came out the other side fireproof. You don't owe anyone an apology for surviving with your crown intact. Number 9. Their system was deep, but your shield was deeper. They built a system around you, chosen one, a calculated, layered, deliberate structure designed to collapse you from the inside out. This wasn't one jealous person, one fake friend, or one off moment. This was a web, a hierarchy of manipulation where every player had a role. The whisperers, the performers, the silent enablers. They had ranks, timing, a plan. But what they didn't plan for was you. What they didn't calculate was your shield. Unseen, unspoken, but unshakable. You weren't just protected, you were prepared. Not with noise, but with awareness. Not with force, but with clarity. While they rehearsed your downfall behind closed doors, you were gathering truth in silence. Your intuition was tracking patterns. Your spirit was watching the shifts. Every accidental slip, every fake compliment, every conveniently timed rumor, you saw it, you felt it, and even when you couldn't explain it, you knew their system was deep. But your discernment went deeper. See, when you're chosen, your protection doesn't always come as miracles. It comes as warnings, a sinking feeling, a cold glance, a sudden urge to pull back, disappear, go quiet. And while they thought you were isolating because you were weak, the truth was your shield was activating. That distance you created, that silence you kept, it wasn't fear, it was precision. A chosen one's silence is strategy, and that strategy dismantled their entire system without you having to lift a single finger. They thought coordination would destroy you, but it only exposed them. Because when people who barely know each other suddenly unite in confusion, in slander, in betrayal, that's not coincidence. That's a network revealing itself. And while they were celebrating your exit, the universe was writing their exposure. One by one, their masks cracked, their intentions leaked. And you remained untouchable, not because you ran, but because your energy elevated so high, their access revoked itself. That's what they'll never admit. They didn't lose control of you. They never had it. You weren't part of their system. You were the signal that it was falling apart. So if they come again, come subtle, come softer, just know, it means the shield still works. The more organized their schemes, the more unstoppable your rise. Number 10. The enemy won't shout next time, they'll smile first. See, they've learned something from the last attempt. Screaming didn't work, lies didn't land, the trap didn't trigger the breakdown they expected. So now they're switching tactics. Now they come soft, with warmth in their voice and poison in their tone. The new threat doesn't kick in your door. It slips through when you unlock it out of habit. That just checking in message, that sudden invite, that random moment of forced nostalgia. It's not connection, it's a re-entry strategy. They realize they can't break a chosen one by force, so now they aim to infiltrate your peace. That fake softness isn't affection, it's manipulation dressed in silk. They're not shouting your name in rooms anymore. They're whispering fake apologies and rehearsed regret, trying to get you to drop your guard. And here's the trap. If you've healed just enough to be calm, but not clear, you'll entertain it. That's how they get close again. And once they're close, the ritual begins all over. This is how chosen ones fall twice, not because they didn't survive the first war, but because they underestimated the enemy's evolution. But not this time, not you. You've already seen the mask slip. You already know that peace doesn't chase chaos back in. Your discernment isn't just protection, it's prevention. Remember, the same hands that once hurt you are now reaching out with polished nails and softer words. But energy doesn't lie, and neither does that tightening in your chest when their name pops up. That's not fear, that's recognition. You don't owe anyone access just because they learned to mimic kindness. Growth isn't tested by how much you forgive. It's tested by how well you protect what you built. So don't wait for the scream. Watch the smile. It's always too wide, too late, too rehearsed. And when the moment comes, and it will, walk away without guilt. Your silence is still your sharpest weapon. You're not hard to reach because you're cruel. You're hard to reach because you're finally clear. Number 11. You were the trap, not the target. They thought you were the target, easy to isolate, easy to bait, easy to break. But what they never realized until it was far too late is that you were the trap. Every move they made against you was recorded by a force bigger than their egos. Every whisper, every smirk, every fake apology, every calculated attempt to shatter your confidence. It was all part of a test they failed. Because they weren't just stepping into your life. They were walking into their own exposure. See, chosen ones don't move loud. We don't announce the shift. We become the shift. You didn't have to fight back, scream, or explain yourself to anyone. You just observed. You pulled back. You chose silence over spectacle. And in doing that, you became the mirror they couldn't escape. They walked into your presence with bad intentions, and your very stillness became the light that revealed their shadows. They thought they were circling prey, but really, they were circling their own reflection, and it scared them. Because when you carry discernment that deep, people's masks don't last long. They glitch, they crack, and when they do, their entire performance falls apart. That's what happened. That's why they panicked. That's why they tried to spin stories, flip narratives, call you cold, fake, too sensitive. Because you didn't react. You didn't explode. And that silence, it exposed everything. Let's call it what it was. They weren't just trying to hurt you. They were trying to study your downfall. They wanted to see you unravel. But what they didn't prepare for was how much clarity you had. The moment they showed their true face, your spirit logged it, not with emotion, but with accuracy. And once you saw the setup, you didn't flinch. You let them keep digging. You weren't confused, you were calculating. Every test they threw your way, passed. Every setup, dodged. Every trap, reversed. Because the truth is, the moment they chose to come against someone aligned, someone protected by inner wisdom and sharpened by experience, the outcome was already decided. You were never the victim in their ritual. You were the silent proof that karma doesn't need a warning, it just needs timing. And now, they're left wondering why nothing worked, why their plan collapsed, why you're still rising. It's because they weren't fighting just a person. They walked straight into a consequence. You weren't the target. You were the trap. Number 12. Walk like the war is over, because you already won. They wanted your downfall to be the final scene, public, loud, permanent. They needed your silence to look like defeat, your withdrawal to feel like shame. But chosen one, what they didn't count on was this. You didn't walk away broken. You walked away aware, and awareness is power they can't control. The war they started is already over. The rituals failed. The setups collapsed. The lies they whispered now haunt only them. And you? You're not fighting anymore. You're ascending. You don't need revenge when your life itself became the plot twist they never saw coming. While they whispered, plotted, waited for you to self-destruct, you were building, quietly, strategically, spiritually. You were becoming exactly what they feared you'd evolve into, untouchable, unshakable, undeniable. You didn't just walk through fire, you absorbed it, and now you burn with a clarity they can't dim. That's why they watch. That's why they imitate. That's why they still try to find cracks in your peace. Because your survival is a threat, your stillness, a warning. So now, walk like it, move like the storm already passed, because it did. Carry your silence like a sword, walk into every room like you're the proof they never wanted the world to see. You don't owe apologies. You don't need validation. They didn't break you. They revealed themselves. And now they live in the aftermath while you rise from it. This is the part they never prepared for, the version of you that came back clearer, colder, wiser, the version that doesn't entertain chaos, the version that recognizes fake warmth and steps over setups like dust on your path. You're not rising for revenge, you're rising because it's alignment. And the more you walk in truth, the more their lies collapse without effort. Your success is not loud, it's haunting. Your peace is not passive, it's disruptive. And your silence, it's the loudest reminder that you never needed their acceptance to begin with. The war is over, chosen one, you won, not because they stopped attacking, but because their attacks lost all power. So walk like it, breathe like it, build like it, and most of all, never shrink for people who needed you to stay small so their illusions could survive. You're not there anymore. You're beyond it. Keep going. And now, as we close this chapter, let that truth settle in. You didn't just survive the ritual, you outgrew it. You walked through every setup they crafted and came out clearer, colder, stronger. Their weapon was shame. Yours was silence, and silence won. So from here on, carry yourself like the battle is beneath you, because it is. If this hits you in the soul, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe to stay aligned with more truth, and drop 99 in the comments if you know your rise is the very thing they tried to stop. You're not done, you're just getting started.